Lebanon City Council, April 22nd, 2025. Mr. Burke.
Mayor Messer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Norris.
Here.
Mr. Sellers.
Here.
Mrs. Harper.
Here.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Here.
Mrs. Eggers.
Here.
Mr. Cope.
Here. Please join me for the invocation and then the pledge.
You bow your heads with me, please. Father in heaven, I just thank you for a beautiful day in Ohio. Thanks for an opportunity to serve our community. Thank you so much for Jesus. In your name I pray, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the council would look at consideration of meeting minutes March 25th, 2025. So a motion to adopt these. They're sitting at your desk here.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Please call roll.
Mr. Cope.
Yes.
Mrs. Eggers.
Yes.
Mrs. Harper.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris.
I'm looking to see if I was here, but I know I missed two. I was here. Yes.
Mr. Sellers.
Yes.
Mayor Messer.
Yes.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Yes.
And then consideration of council work session minutes March 4th, 2025. Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Please call roll.
Mr. Cope.
Yes.
Mrs. Eggers.
Yes.
Mrs. Harper.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Mr. Sellers.
Yes.
Mayor Messer.
Yes.
Mr. Lamoureux.
Yes.
We'll see February 19th at another meeting. So we got a packed house tonight. We're going to start with the Citizens Academy graduate recognition. This is for Sierra Long.
Thank you so much for participating.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything you want to tell me about why they should join Citizens Academy next time?
Yeah, Citizens Academy was really very, very informational. It was interesting, and I appreciate everybody who took the time to participate in it, especially Scott. Thank you so much. Anybody has interest in knowing about how individual departments in Lebanon operate, I think it's a great program.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
We recognized three of our other participants last week, and in that meeting we kind of described it as it was a 3-week kind of accelerated program, and they were able to shadow some of the main department heads, ask questions. The department heads actually met with them, kind of explained their roles at the city. I know Scott had a major role in developing the program and making sure it went off without a hitch. So I appreciate the time that they spent to learn more about how the city operates. Next is our Arbor Day proclamation. Where's Casey at? She out there?
She's walking the other way.
She's like, oh, no, you're fine, you're fine.
I thought as soon as she heard her name, she hightailed it the other way.
Poor Casey. Very good. So we'll start by reading the proclamation, and then Casey, you can.
The Reserve Shakespeare Commission here.
Very good. They can call up the winners, and hopefully council will be able to see them this year. We can do a little flip flop. You guys get pictures, and we get to see them too. Okay. Glasses. Whereas Arbor Day, a special day set aside for planting of trees, is now being observed throughout the nation as an occasion for recognizing the value of trees and forests to the welfare of our citizens. And whereas the City of Lebanon encourages all residents of the community to plant a tree to commemorate this special day and to recognize the importance of trees in our lives. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, promote environmental consciousness, and beautify our community. And whereas the City of Lebanon has been recognized at Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting efforts. Now therefore, I, Mark Messer, by the virtue and authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Lebanon, Ohio, do hereby proclaim April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the city of Lebanon.
Good evening. I'm Nikki Marquis. I'm with the Shade Tree Commission in Lebanon, and these are fellow members Karen Bentley and James Hibbert. Every year, once a year, we celebrate Arbor Day, and this is something that's celebrated internationally. We learn more about trees all year, and we take one day out to celebrate it. And this year we're celebrating the city of Lebanon, and this is something to be proud of. We've been a city, Tree City USA for 34 years. We're one of the oldest in the nation, and Ohio has more Tree City USAs than any other state, I believe, or close to it. So to be a Tree City USA, we have to have an ordinance, a proclamation read every year. We have to have a city ordinance. We have to have a tree commission, and we have to spend so much money per capita on trees, removal and planting and learning and so forth. And we do all that every year for 34 years. So here we are. And I believe everyone can do something to help trees. We can start by learning. And tonight we're celebrating some of our youngest citizens, and they're celebrating some beautiful artwork. We have a tree poster contest every year. And we have a new theme every year. This year it was trees, be friends with trees. And the children have drawn posters and just their best impression and artistic concept of what they have of that. And they're amazing, the things the kids come up with. And they're also individually different. But we are going to call the kids up one by one, and when I call your name, kids, if you just come up and stand over here, make a line behind us, and hold your poster in front so everyone can see, okay? All right. We invite all of our schools in Lebanon to participate, and the kids in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade are the classes that participate. I'm going to read the winners from St. Francis de Sales first. Casey, I'm not sure I understand this. Where it says 3rd, you have the 3rd place winner first?
Yeah, no, that's first.
Okay, 3rd grade, okay. That was minor. All right, so 3rd place from St. Francis de Sales is Ali Pavich. Ali, are you here? We have a couple that weren't able to come tonight. I think Ali might be one. Amy Ladera. Oh, hold it up to your chin so that everyone I didn't say she was short. 2nd place, Amy Ladera. 1st place is Grace Fye. It might be upside down. Very good. In 4th grade, in 3rd place, we have Tommy Barsak. Hope I said your name right. He's not here today, but congratulations. Rowan Keys. In 1st place is Aria Pike. Hold your certificate behind you. In 5th grade, we have 3rd place, A.J. Chubessing. 2nd place is Noel Allen Saxton. And first place is Lexi Plunkett, who I spoke with tonight. She's here. And in sixth grade, still with St. Francis de Sales, third place is Beth Thomas. It should be fun. Second place is Salem Thomas. And first place is Lauren Cole. So Donovan, we just have third and fourth grade. In third grade, third place is Zoe Slusher. Second place is Louis Shaver. And first place is Maxwell Allison. In fourth grade, we have third place Skylar Spencer. Second place Quinn Ratliff. And first place is Carson Yeager. We're hoping that some of the future tree commission members are going to be found out here in these youngsters. We appreciate the city for everything that you do for the tree commission and supporting us the way that you do. And thank you and have a good night.
All right, so
let's get
let's get
Shady Tree Commission.
Okay, so we'll get, yeah, Shade Tree Commission, get a photo, please. All right, guys, so we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, trees. Trees. All right, now, real quick, everybody take 2 big steps forward. And then turn around and show council your photo.
Thank you.
Like the American flag.
Thank you.
All right, we have one more thing, and then you guys can go grab ice cream. So, many of you have heard about the Parkside development that's going in on 63. There's a 60-acre park that has been designated for the public that's going to run up through that area. We were able to work with the Lebanon City Schools, and Lauren Miller and Karen Miranda initiated some of the high school students there to help name that property. And we actually got 2 names out of the whole situation, so it actually worked out really well for us. And so we just wanted to say thank you to the students that were a part of that. And is John Simkus here tonight? Did he make it tonight? Okay. Well, John Simkus was also, our local historian, was also involved and presented to the students and kind of gave a history of the location. And that's kind of what helped bring that name to life. So we have with us Libby Schaefer, Rubicella Lopez, Aaron Hutchinson, and Zachary Callahan. Are you guys in the crowd at all?
I think there's 2 more names too, I think. Okay, those are the ones there.
Are there 2 more?
Well, there was 6 names altogether in the email, but maybe these are the only ones.
Did we miss 2 names? Is there 2 people here that we missed?
Yes, you have another one. Nelson, I don't know if he's here, and Morgan Oppie, Morgan here, and Nathan Purdy. I think I saw Nathan. Here we go.
Awesome, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to get definitely the other students' certificates as well, and very attractive couple, or what are these, coasters? For your morning coffee or Monster Energy drink. Okay, so Libby Schaefer, thank you so much. Coasters here. And Ruby Keller. Aaron Hutchinson, and Zachary Kelly. Very good. And what was your name?
Avi.
Okay, so we will get your, thank you so much. But hey, guess what? You guys get coasters. Would love to get a picture with you guys, and then I'll tell you what the names are. You guys want to be here? Yeah. With the city council on this. There we go.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yep.
Very good. Thank you. So, which name did you guys? Shaker Hill Trail. Shaker Hill. Stonehouse Park. Stonehouse. There we go. Okay, so it is for the bike trail that's going to run from downtown Lebanon. You guys can sit down if you want. That's going to run from downtown Lebanon all the way to the top of the development. We decided on Shaker Hill Trail, and then for the actual park itself, we decided on Stonehouse Park. So, yeah. And I don't know, Jen, this was the genesis came from her. She came up with this idea. So if you'd like to say anything about the process.
The response was great. Was it 80, 100 responses?
Over 100.
Over 100 responses from the students, yeah. Do we have other Lebanon high school staff here that we could recognize?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
We
let's
have,
do that.
did I hear Alyssa Hensey? She was one of our senior English teachers along with Lauren Miller.
Thank you.
And our principal, Robert Reynolds.
All right,
Very
thank you for
good.
coming. Yeah, appreciate it.
We appreciate you coming tonight, and we thank you for being a part of this and helping us name this one of the largest parks in our city.
I
So,
do have a comment. I
Yeah,
did say to our students.
if you want to come to the podium,
Oh, sure,
yeah.
sure.
Anybody?
So,
Identify yourself.
yes, I'm Karen Miranda. I'm a 9th grade algebra teacher at the high school. And I just was asked by Jennifer Harper to create a Google form, submitted it to our school. Over 100 students responded to the Google form. And then after you decided on the name, I went to go inform our students. And I got into their study hall classes, or I went and said, hey, your name was selected. And they're like, okay. And I said, City Council would like to honor you and recognize you. Great. And I said, you'll think this is really cool when you're 40 years old. And you go by the park and tell your kids. I would name that when I was a freshman in high school or sophomore in high school.
Absolutely.
So I think they'll like that then.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
for
Thank you.
being a part of it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
thank you so much.
Yeah, I do want to emphasize that to the students that, I mean, it's not like we have very many parks and trails that we have an opportunity to name, and this will live on, literally when you're 40 years old, you're going to go, yeah, I did that. That's pretty cool.
It is cool, yeah. Especially on Arbor Day, it'll be a nice green space that you can always look back on. Anything else from City Council?
No, I just appreciate, the, history, is the backbone not only of our community, but also our country, and our republic. So, being able to utilize, the new park location based off some of, its historical significance, coming up with some really, really cool names, giving us some great choices to choose from. So, I really appreciate the effort, and like you said, you'll appreciate it down the road, especially. So,
Just real quick, I just appreciate Casey and the Shade Tree Commission. They do an excellent job of taking care of the trees, trimming them, making sure that if they're bad, obviously they're removed. I drive a lot. I spend a lot of time in the car, and I just love our town. And Then I guess a real quick shout out, I was going to save this to the end, but I know some members of the Shade Tree Committee are here. So Saturday morning, Trail Life Troop 1436 is planting trees in Miller Park. We did 300 trees last year. It was a lot of fun. Casey kind of oversaw that. You can pray for her because we're going to have all these teenage boys out there with shovels and with donuts too. We have donuts, so that tends to kind of, you know, keep them in line. But it's a lot of fun, and we're supposed to have a beautiful Saturday, which is really, really rare for Ohio in the spring. So, but I guess just a shout out to y'all. I just appreciate what you guys do.
Is that open to the public to go and help, or is that just?
Most public. I'm just kidding. You can. Yeah, you can come. Well,
You have to pass back.
I had him make donuts.
I was gonna say the donuts is what got him one.
I don't think any other community around us has more parks than Lebanon has, and we've got great ones. And you know, the Colonial Park is my favorite right now, and because that's just like you can't even remember that you're in a community. But I do appreciate that. And my name for the hill that's out there, Can't Make It Hill Park. It is a steep one, so that'll be quite the bike ride. Fortunately, I was given an electric bike, so I'll be able to ride it. But I'm very anxious because I happen to live right on the connector for that one when we get it completely done. So Casey does a great job, and I really appreciate that, and the Shade Tree Commission as well. We have a lot of old trees. We got to keep an eye on them, and I always encourage people to plant more and replace those. Grateful for the ones that planted them years and years ago, and I had to take my 140-year-old maple down last year, and I still miss it. But you know, there's still a lot of great trees in Lebanon, and it's just a great community. Makes us what we are for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Shade Tree Commission and Casey. I really enjoy these evenings when we have a lot of community input, especially from all different ages. It's not often that we have students from different ages here with us, and I have several kids in the school district too, so I like seeing all the input and them getting to feel like a part of the community, which they are, and having these things that they can be proud of. So Casey, thank you for your help in all of these, because you'll be, you know, obviously you're taking care of the park. You've got all these youngsters here that you have to corral with their posters, and thank you for turning them around so we can see them this year. So thank you for everybody for being here, and all the families too. It's just always fun. And the one thing that we all really enjoy too is everybody saying the pledge together. When we turn around and we hear all the voices behind us of all the little voices, it's extra fun.
Just a cool piece of trivia, and Casey, you're gonna have to correct the name, but there's an oak tree. What is the actual species of oak tree in the park that's like the second largest in Ohio?
It's a chingo pin oak.
Yeah, that's it. I was saying like Chesapeake oak in my head. So it's the second largest oak tree in Ohio?
Well, of that species.
Of that species.
Of that variety of oak, it's the second largest one in Ohio. It's almost 5 feet across, 90 feet tall, 90 feet wide.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's on our new trail.
Our new French Run Trail, you can access it less than 200 feet from the Colonial Park East parking lot.
Yeah. So that's a great trail. I spent a lot of time on that last year. So, and then again, just thank you for everyone for coming tonight, and we enjoyed having you here. So we are going to move on to previous business, and if you guys want to stay, you can, but if not, have a great evening.
Mark, I know that we have.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Who, what?
He wants a public comment. It's not much.
Did he sign in?
I don't know that he did.
Could you get, Rob, could you sign in on a sheet for me? Rob Marshall in the back there. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Did you get the other two kids?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I thought everybody was here for
That wasn't on the email that was sent to me.
my second.
This is awesome. Yeah. You should film that.
So funny. I don't have any idea how that wound up in front of his house.
Scott? Put plaques.
Thank you.
Maybe in the work session, we talk about plaques.
Good to go. Yeah. Just state your name and your address and your.
Name's Rob Marshall, and I've lived in town since almost 30 years, and I ride all over town, love to ride through town. One thing I've noticed recently is no one pays attention to the crosswalks. You've done a great job of putting them up. You ride up, and there's one by Brant's coming into town. I've stopped there, and I'll walk across my bike, because it's like taking your life in your hands, because people will be running down Main Street. I was biking, stopped, and came across some flashing light. Here's a Duke Energy truck pulling a trailer, and the guy's on his phone, and I scream at him. He's like, "What's going on?" And then the one going over through the middle of town, the one down by the Y, people don't pay attention. So it seems like like I was going up there the other day. Here's a family of 4 biking. Little girl hits the button, the lights come on, truck blows right past him. Almost hit her. Not paying attention. It seems like we need a flashing red light or a stoplight when that comes on, because people do not pay attention to that, and someone's going to get hurt and killed. Because especially when you're walking across, you're assuming you're safe because the light's on, but you are not. Pedestrians should have the right of way, but they don't.
It's a timely comment. We were speaking about this just last week, and we actually have TCC here tonight with Safe Streets, and they're going to be presenting as well. So all of this is kind of going into what your comments kind of build into what we're
you could put a camera on that gets people's, get their license plate, but I don't know if you wanted to be the big brother, but it seems like if you just had a flashing, red stop sign border, or because I've been to campuses where they do that, when somebody pushes a button and somebody's walking across, there's a stoplight that comes on and says, hey, if you're coming traffic, you have to stop, give pedestrians right away, because they don't pay attention to the flashing yellow lights. I'm not sure why, but it doesn't seem to work. So, we just need to get one child hit, crossing the street, and because they're assuming they're safe, and like you're not. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, and like I said, I really enjoy riding through town, and it's a lot of fun, and I try to be as safe as humanly possible.
Well,
try to wear bright
Can
colors.
you stay and listen to? This is exactly what we're talking about. Everything you said, we've identified.
Okay, sure.
I'd love to hear to see that this is definitely a concern. I'm like you, I'm in town a lot. I have literally yelled at people as they blaze through. I've actually hung my arm out to stop a car on Broadway as people were walking in front of my car, and this car, I knew he wasn't stopping, and I was waving my arm. And I think that happens whether the lights are there or not. People just aren't paying attention.
You would think they would, but they don't. Mike and I were talking about that, I said I'd like to come talking. He's like, you're going to hit the perfect time. So, I'll be happy to stay.
And hear what the group has been working on.
Well, thank you very much.
Now looking at previous business, ordinance number 2025-046.
Ordinance number 2025-046, approving modifications to section 915.02, power supply cost adjustment clause of our codified ordinances, reflecting the new solar power generation rate.
This ordinance modifies the city's power supply cost adjustment rate formula to include the city's solar array power generation into the calculations supporting the monthly PCA rate. The factor that's going to be included in the formula is $52 per megawatt hour.
Do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Sellers?
Yes.
Mr. Coe?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Eggers?
Yes.
Mr. Lamoureux?
Yes.
Mayor Messer?
Yes. So, new business, resolution 2025-047.
Resolution number 2025-047, authorizing the residential facade improvement grant program as outlined in the 2025 City Council goals and objectives.
This resolution authorizes a residential facade improvement grant program. which provides financial assistance for single-family homeowners with a matching grant of up to $5,000 per project. This initial pilot program is a pilot program for 2025, which will focus on the Pleasant Square neighborhood. This was identified as a goal, a city council goal. For the residential facades, it does not include kind of maintenance items, so roofing, painting. It really is more for, windows, doors, siding improvements, but it's kind of a spin-off of the city's successful small business development grant program.
Would, so no paint at all? So if we're fixing siding, like wood siding or things like that?
If there's painting that's also being done in conjunction with some exterior kind of facade improvements, it could be eligible, but painting as a standalone project is not.
Very good. Motion to adopt?
Second.
Any comments?
When will this roll out, Mr. Bronca?
Well, it's a resolution, so it'll be effective immediately if it's adopted tonight. So I think our intent would be then to send out letters to the property owners within the pilot area, just notifying them of the program.
Okay, and then that's what I was going to ask. What steps do the people take? That'll be explained in the letter.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect.
Motion in a second. Mr. Cook, please call roll.
Mr. Lamoureux?
Yes.
Mr. Sellers?
Yes.
Mayor Messer?
Yes.
Mrs. Eggers?
Yes.
Mrs. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Cope?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2025-048.
Ordinance number 2025-048, authorizing the city manager to participate in the ODOT cooperative purchasing program and declaring an emergency.
This ordinance authorizes participation in the ODOT cooperative purchasing program, allowing the city to purchase vehicles, machinery, materials, and supplies that have been competitively bid or negotiated by ODOT.
A motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Sellers?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Mr. Cope?
Yes.
Mayor Messer?
Yes.
Mrs. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Lamoureux?
Yes.
Mrs. Eggers?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2025-049.
Ordinance number 2025-049, authorizing the purchase of the 2025 Freightliner N2 Plus single axle cab and chassis from FYD.
Love how you say that.
It was a mouthful. From FYDA Freightliner Cincinnati as part of the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program in the amount of $102,299 and declaring an emergency.
This ordinance authorizes the purchase of a 2025 Freightliner truck that Mark just described to replace a 2011 International dump truck, which has reached the end of its useful life. This purchase has been included in the 2025 operating budget.
Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any comment?
Scott, you say they typically last about 15 years?
Yeah, 12 to 15. It kind of depends a little bit on, obviously rust and how much they're used, but that's been typically what we get out of these dump trucks.
Yeah, if you see the picture of the old one, it definitely got its use out of it, so.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Eggers?
Yes.
Mrs. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Lamoureux?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Mayor Messer?
Yes.
Mr. Cope?
Yes.
Mr. Sellers?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2025-050.
Ordinance number 2025-050, authorizing the purchase of outfitting equipment for the 2025 Freightliner from Henderson Products Incorporated as part of the National Purchasing Partners Government, or NPP Gov, cooperative program in the amount of $156,154 and declaring an emergency.
This ordinance authorizes the purchase of equipment for the new Freightliner so that it may be utilized for snow and ice control.
Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Sellers?
Yes.
Mr. Cope?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Eggers?
Yes.
Mr. Lamoureux?
Yes.
Mayor Messer?
Yes. Resolution 2025-051.
Resolution number 2025-051, adopting a Lebanon Safe Streets Initiative Plan which is a comprehensive safety action plan to advance roadway safety.
This resolution approves the adoption of the Lebanon Safe Streets Initiative, a comprehensive safety action plan that supports the efforts to advance roadway safety with a sustained focus on zero traffic fatalities and serious injuries. This plan has been recommended by the steering committee that's been working on it for the past 9 months. I'd like to have Ed and Andrea from TEC, who were our consultants, put this plan together, kind of run through a presentation that kind of outlines the key findings of the plan. So turn over to you guys.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and start, and then I can jump in as necessary. Again, 9 months, nearly a year now, we've been working on this Lebanon Safe Streets Initiative. And so we just kind of want to run through what we've done, where we are now, and how we can help you guys get to, again, the goal of zero fatalities and serious injuries. This is a little wordy of a slide, but I want to point out a couple of important words here. It's the action plan purpose, and it is the plan focused on increasing safety for all roadway users. So not just people in cars, but also pedestrians and cyclists, all roadway users. And the plan, the end game of the plan is to outline the steps to execute a successful analysis iteration, which can be used by Lebanon to evaluate safety concerns as needed. So the plan gives us the steps to create safe roads for everybody. So this is kind of the contents of the plan, which kind of goes through our workflow and then what you can expect to see in the plan. So a commitment statement, that's where we all say we're committed to safe streets. Study area, pretty easy here, City of Lebanon. We look at some past planning, any other plans you guys have invested your money in, people have worked hard on. We want to make sure we're incorporating all those plans. The meat of our work is, because we're engineers, is the crash analysis. So we looked at, and I'll go into details on that in a second, but we looked at what crashes have happened now, where are they happening, why are they happening, and what can we do to try and prevent more crashes. We do look at equity and engagement. Again, I'll get into that a little bit, but we wanted to make sure we were looking at what people from Lebanon want to see. So we did some surveys, we had our task force, and we had a small but mighty public meeting. This is a little outdated, the Safe Routes to School plan. We focused on that and those improvements. It's actually in the past planning section, so if you go to look for it, that's where it is. And then we also want to look at improvements that are already planned. So the stuff on State Route 63 near the Parkside development. Well, again, a lot of different things that you already have planned. We don't want to give recommendations that are already underway. That's a waste of all of our time and money. So we look at those. Analysis, we take all the crashes, we see where they're happening, we prioritize different locations, and then we propose improvements. And then in a few years, you do it all over again. So this is a lot of details on how we do the crash analysis, but we basically look at every crash that happened within the city. We focus on injuries and fatalities. That's what we're really trying to reduce. And we also focus on vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists. So we get all the crashes, we find out where they happen, we put them in a fancy GIS map. We calculate the crash frequency and rate. So crash frequency is 10 crashes happen at an intersection. The rate is per this many cars that are at the intersection. So you look at a lower volume intersection with the same amount of crashes, maybe more to look at than bypass 48 where you would expect some crashes to happen. Based on that, we looked at, selected our priority sites, and then we presented those to the task force. Again, we had 3 task force meetings over the course of maybe 9 months, maybe 6 months. I'm not sure where those fit in the calendar. This is just a little smattering of our maps. I just wanted to show you because I think I think these are neat. Using the heat map, so those are all the injury crashes, 426 injury crashes in 5 years. So that's just really where we focus on trying to reduce that number. Bicycle crashes, should probably say crashes involving bicycles, not necessarily bicycles crashing into things. And pedestrian crashes, you can see, it's kind of hard to see up there, but they're kind of focused in the downtown area, which I think most of you would expect from the crossings and pedestrian activity there. So again, we did a lot of those, but just wanted to show you little fruits of our labor there. To our equity and engagement, so we put a public survey out, and we actually got 200 responses. It was up around October and November for 2 months. We got 200 responses, which we were really happy with that. A lot of them found it from social media, I think. But basically, if you did not get a chance to see it, it was a map where you put a pin in, and it gives people a lot of power, so I think they liked that. Put a pin in and say, here's where I think there's a problem, here's what the problem is. And that really helps us understand not just crashes happened here, it's not safe, but where do people feel unsafe? Because those don't necessarily correlate with where crashes happen, but it's really important to know where people feel unsafe. So we did use that information in our priority list to try and figure out which sites we want to focus on.
So then, from all of that, we came up with high priority locations. We took the GIS data, the crash analysis. We came up with a couple different rankings from, as Andrea mentioned, a crash rate, but then we also tried to pump up some of the vulnerable road users. So we gave a weighting to some of the pedestrian and the bicycle crashes to try to see where some of those are, so that they kind of, on that other list, kind of rose to the top. And so we had, a spots location, which is basically an intersection. We had segments. And then we had, some of those projects that popped up the list were actually some with planned improvements. And so we took that to the stakeholder groups, and we took that to the public meeting, and we took recommendations, and there was a good dialogue in all of those meetings to kind of come up with projects for a lot of those locations. And I know this is a lot to take in on this slide, but some things like State Route 48, Burt and Forge, for instance, that's a high volume, high speed intersection. Looking at extending the turn lanes, adding new turn lanes, signal upgrades, dilemma zone detection, which it just tracks vehicles through the light and extends the light so that they're not running a red, but they're getting through on a green, and then trying to service those vehicles better and in a safer way. Some other intersection stuff that we talked about, 48, Columbus and Miller, which is obviously a big intersection. There's some recommendations there. I don't want to go through the entire list. Even down to in the downtown grid, one of the recommendations that came out of the public surveys and some of the task holder meetings was, or the stakeholder meetings was, there's a lot of intersections that are always stops, and there's some intersections that are two-way stops, and they're not always intuitive. And so as you drive through downtown, sometimes you stop at an intersection and realize you don't have a stop sign because it's a two-way stop. So just some of those locations. And from that, we also had policy recommendations. And these are, just recommendations that came out of a study of, for instance, multimodal considerations. Just a thing that should be considered, all users of an intersection as you're planning improvements. If you're doing counts, count the pedestrian and bicycles. It's an easy thing that you can do. It helps you track. Hey, we did improvements. We've added sidewalk, improved crossings. Have the pedestrians gone up? Have the bicyclists gone up at this intersection? And it just gives you more information as you make informed decisions. Continue the task force. After studies, look at the crashes every year and try to see, have they changed? Are we getting better? And as you do any project, and there's projects that come out of this, but you're doing projects every year. Those projects all have a safety component that will reduce crashes for all users. So just some policy statements that were in there. Funding recommendations, all of these projects, all of this data is really good information to go after funding so that you're not paying 100% of the cost for these projects. And so there is federal funding through, I call it the LKI grants, which is the Surface Transportation Block Grant, the Transportation Alternatives Program, and the Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality. You guys have probably used those funds before on different projects, and those are all available. Those are 80-20 grants. 80% paid for, you're only putting in 20% down to Highway Safety Improvement Program funds. Those are actually 90% grants. Those are really, really good funds. And I believe now that you can count your design as your 10%. They kind of change those rules occasionally, but that is right now. SS4A grants, the planning and demonstration grants, which is part of this study was that, but then also implementation grants. Those grants can be up to $25 million. The OKI funds are capped at, I think, $8 million. So and it's 80% funds on everything from design, right-of-way construction, down to local funds, the Ohio Public Works Commission, which is on the ballot next month, as well as Transportation Improvement District funding. So those are all of the data that's part of this plan can be used to support one of those funding initiatives for these projects. And so for the final thing, the implementation grant that we're looking at and that we're recommending is probably a couple, obviously there is the 42 bypass 48 and Miller Road intersection. That's a big intersection. There's potential development around that intersection, that already happened. There's potential development that's coming. I know the city's also looking at Main and State Route 48, as well as bypass 48 corridor. There's some recommendations for the entire corridor, low cost, but that could be done for that entire corridor. I think what we would recommend is focusing on Miller and the bypass. And that is our presentation.
Thank you.
And you could always just read the study. It's very, very exciting.
Very detailed.
Yes.
I did read a lot of it. Was there anything that stood out that you would say maybe this is unique as far as the danger? I would be curious what the comments were. I don't remember specifically in the report about the crosswalks like Mr. Marshall came up and spoke about, but between that, anything else that stood out?
Yeah, I think that
motorcycles.
the motorcycles, yes, that was one thing, and we actually pulled that out as a separate vulnerable. It's not always identified as a vulnerable road user because you think of pedestrians and bicyclists, but in some cases motorcycles. And there was an unusually high number of motorcycle crashes in Lebanon as compared to the rest of the nation. We couldn't find a direct correlation of like, well, this is the reason why. But it was, and we actually called it out as a separate thing in the plan because it seemed higher. It was higher than the rest of the nation.
Anything on the crosswalks? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm going to ask you some more quick on the motorcycle. Were they singular vehicle accidents, or were these involving other vehicles?
So they're involving other vehicles. I think there were some, obviously, no helmet and other considerations, but it was a higher percentage of the injury crashes. I think I forget the exact numbers, but I feel like this was around, I don't know, let's say 30%, whereas a nationwide average was in the teens. So it was higher than what you would expect. But again, I don't know that there's a direct correlation to say this is why.
The crashes, the injuries was higher, or both?
Both. So.
One of the things I found interesting is not that I had ever any reason to doubt the data, right? It's just, based off the study, the ones that people are always talking about. Now, obviously, I have not talked to every citizen, but 42, 48 Miller Road, the Main Street and 48, those are ones everybody's always talking about. So it just goes to show the accuracy of the study and the data that you guys put together, because that's one that everybody, even though most people probably haven't witnessed necessarily an accident there, they very much feel uncomfortable in those sections, right? So.
Yeah, and I think one of the meetings we had, we actually plotted the number of people who responded that they felt uncomfortable, because that is the good part of the discussion and the survey is we can track crashes because there's a report, there's a police report, but we can't track near crashes, and that's what we got out of the meetings. And it was great dialogue. Even the small public meeting we had, there was a lot of people and really good dialogue of what they thought of the intersections we discussed, or the segments and the recommendations. So.
Maybe as a follow-up to Mr. Marshall's question, the flashing pedestrian signal crossings, what have you seen be effective in other communities? You guys obviously do a lot of work elsewhere, so
yeah,
thoughts on that?
So I think, years ago, probably about 10 years ago, the RFB, which is the flashing light, it has a specific strobe that's supposed to garner attention of the driver, and I think just like every other sign, we put them in a lot of places and people are stopped paying attention. And I think it also is, you know, we have people just not paying attention in general. I mean, I think, you know, we're always looking for something new to draw their attention, and, you know, but we have to follow the manual, what the manual says, the Ohio Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So, you know, I do think that if we can, you know, in places where we've had these, you know, I think always, you know, we've had, and you guys have done this, bumping out the curbs, trying to get them more visible to the driver so they're not on the side of the road. You're seeing them almost in line or close to in line as you're driving down the road. You know, you guys have, all these things you've done a great job at are the things that we've seen work, but again, it's people not paying attention. But, you know, the piano key crosswalks, you know, those are, tell the driver there are pedestrians in this area. And if you drive through downtown Lebanon, you know there's pedestrians in the area. I mean, there's always pedestrians in the area. And so, you know, one of the things that we did just do in Blue Ash was we actually took that sign and put it over the road. So instead of being on the side of the road, it's over the road. And that, again, it's something different, it's something unique, and it's over the road, so it draws our attention more than a sign that's on the side of the road. So, you know, we're always looking for those things that are kind of unique, but still follow the manual and allow you to bring attention to that.
Do you think a flashing red is more effective than a flashing yellow? Or I know red means stop, but versus people just completely ignoring yellow, like that means, you know, stop if you feel like it.
Yeah, I think there are some things called a hawk signal, which is like a hawk beacon. It's not a signal, it's a beacon technically. And there's a couple of them around. Again, it's weird. People don't normally see it. When they see something they're not used to, they kind of causes them to drive a little bit more cautiously. There's one in Madeira, there's a couple in Hamilton, Marymount maybe. But it's dark, and then it flashes. It's like a 3-section head with 2 up top and 1 on the bottom, and it kind of flashes yellow, but it flashes, or is it red? I think it's red.
It flashes yellow like a slow down, and then it goes straight red.
Yes. So that is something else that could be tried.
The benefit is then it flashes red, so you get your walk signal, people usually scurry across. And then it flashes red, then you're allowed to go.
Yeah.
So if someone just runs across or jogging, you don't wait for the whole, like if you're at a regular crosswalk, you wait for that whole flashing don't walk.
Right.
So in theory,
Cool,
yeah, there's one in Madeira, I live in Madeira, people know how to use it there, I think we've learned, it's been there for a long time. Most people do follow it.
So when you come in 11, you get a little manual and says, here's how you do it. This is how you pay attention.
I think we found actually, it is a little intuitive, it does the yellow, and it's straight red. It's the flashing red that's a little bit, people don't know what to do. There's a little sign with directions, like you have time to sit and read directions.
I do feel on the almost 4 years I've been on council, this has been, except for the bike lane, but this has been more on topic on social media, direct conversations, you know, than anything. And traffic safety, what to do. People all have different ideas. Some we can't fix, we got to deal with. Some we can fix. I thought you guys did a great job, and I'm just glad to be on that committee. Working with, I felt like it was a real committee, like you were really, we were going to do something, and some good changes are going to happen from simple things like painting out 48, something that's not that's not real costly. But it is a concern, and like Mr. Marshall said, I don't want someone to get hit in town. And but there is a ownership of responsibility at some point. You can drop gates down, you can do whatever, but people just, I don't know how to get that message across. You have to pay attention, and especially in that section of Lebanon that's downtown, it's not a raceway, and you know, and I know anything like that hawk system, it would at least attract attention and for visitors and different people, but it does worry me how much close calls, because we don't track those. And you know, I think the last meeting we were in, I had seen an accident that week, and both of the highlighted on 48 and Cook and Columbus and 48. I wasn't involved, but I was right there. And it's like, man, this is the one we're identifying. I'm watching that all the time. I still drive through those intersections trying to figure out, how is this happening? It's clear. I was on 48 and Monroe and was trying to figure out, how do so many accidents happen here? It all makes sense. There's a stoplight, there's a yellow, there's a green, but still people are, you know, so I really feel Lebanon is taking the bull by the horns on this, and that we're gonna do some good things. Probably not as fast as people want, but I do feel in the next couple of years, there's gonna be some real positives from this.
Well, Adam, what about one of the other keys of safety are engineering, enforcement, education. So I've heard about, I think it was in Hilliard, when they did roundabouts, people weren't driving them correctly. They would pull out their little pamphlet and it looked like a ticket, but it wasn't a ticket. And they would not enforce it, just say like, here's what you did, you know, read up a little. So education is a piece and kind of goes to the policy part of the study of.
It's not a ramp.
Don't launch.
If the city were to improve an intersection in just the way that you say we should do it, and then you go back and look at the data, let's say a year later, what percentage reduction in crashes do you consider that a success?
It's a tough question. I mean, I would say in a lot of the things that we're recommending, there's things called crash modification factors, and so there's historical studies on if you do this, you might see a reduce of X. You know, and some of the things I think, you know, one of the things we recommended was just on bypass 48, wider lines. And it seems dumb. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a traffic engineer. It's like, well, why would that make any difference? But they've shown that has shown I forget the crash modification. I think it's around 20%. So like the crashes, and it's certain types of crashes. It's not all crashes, but it's certain types of crashes you get that reduction. And so I think without like major things, like even just minor little things, back plates on signals and the striping thing, I think you can see, you know, 20% wouldn't be unheard of. I will say like roundabouts, you know, you eliminate the dangerous crashes, which is the angles and the head-ons, and because you're turning, and you're turning right. But you do see increases on side swipes and rear ends, which usually are not the injury crashes. I understand it's a pain to get your car fixed, but it's usually not an injury crash.
And I think we have asked DC to move forward with the stop sign warrant analysis downtown. So one of the recommendations was pedestrian safety downtown and looking at two-way versus four-way stop. So we've actually authorized them to start that process.
And I don't recall in the report if it talked about any speed humps. Not speed bumps, but those, you know, the rectangular speed humps downtown.
We don't have that in there. I mean, I will say like that has worked in some locations. Do I?
I said I hate them. College Hill, they've been putting them in College Hill.
I'm usually a proponent of trying to find a solution before you go to that, because I do think, and the data shows if you put those in, typically the person speeds up between them. There's a feeling of, I lost time because I had to slow down and go over this bump, so I'm going to go a little faster before I get to the next bump. You know, we've done things, and in Mason we had speeding problem on a connector street, and we did some striping. You know, if you push people, if it's a wider street and you push people and make them drive closer to one another, narrow the lanes, they tend to drive slower because they feel a little uncomfortable. So I think things like that can be done. That before you know, and it's even the idea of curb bump outs, it's even the idea of narrow lanes. I think that all pushes people to drive a little bit more slower because they're closer to one another.
Is it possible, I don't know if it helps or if it's feasible or permissible or any of those things, when you're trying to get attention to, you know, like one of the issues that we have obviously is, you know, people just not paying attention to the flashing yellow, or maybe they're distracted or whatever. Is there something similar to like the rumble strip type things that you can use instead of it being like a speed hump, just something that like catches their kind of attention in the road, like before those are coming up? Is there anything like that that's helpful?
I know like the state of Ohio has done these, you know, distracted driving corridors and things like that. I feel like there's been, but that's followed with enforcement, which is sometimes difficult. I know they've changed some of the rules on that, but it does take some personal initiative of I need to stay off my phone. And, you know, I think that's some of what goes on.
I'm not ready. I'm going to look into that. I don't see anything.
I'm thinking of like, like the ADA compliant bumps, that you have as you're going up the ramps, like, something like that, that's
Like
just like.
before a toll booth, they have those.
Yeah, just,
They have them over on, by Liberty Center, when you're getting on the highway.
Yeah.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
They're
You're
makes
going
a hot
through-
pitch with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
tires in it, yeah.
Yeah,
What was
just
that
something.
concrete, there was something in aggregate that you said. that was
Yeah,
like
so the one thing, because one of our meetings, we discussed the concern that people, I think what you're talking about is people drive down the two-way left turn lane and use it an extra lane. And one of the things we've recommended a couple places is if you did that as, I'm going to say like a textured concrete, and it makes it, you can turn across it, but it's not comfortable to drive on. You wouldn't want to drive a long distance along that, and that is something that we've looked at recommended in a couple places. I've seen it in a couple places. I think Fairfax has something similar to that down there on 50, but it's a textured concrete, which is a turn lane, so you can turn into driveways and you can use it to get out of the through lane. But it's not something you'd want to drive an extended period of time on.
So we could do that on Main Street, like the whole road, and take the trucks off?
That's an idea, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to see some of those things, so I might be calling and take a field trip, because I was interested in that, because that would definitely you'd pay attention if you're rumbling along on that type of concrete.
We'll just
Yeah, and you think about like
slow down repavement program, that'll solve it. Brilliant.
Hey, I slow down up a Rural King, or you'd fall in holes up there.
do you think like when you're going around and around about the truck apron, that's a textured concrete, you're not supposed to drive on it, and it's textured because they don't want you to, but you can if you need to. So.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
I know Mr. Johnson, you had some questions. I don't know if you.
Actually, so the Fairfax thing was what I was gonna bring up to see, because that wasn't in the draft. So I was curious if any of that got in there. And then also, speaking of if you don't want speed humps, but maybe pedestrian islands, basically, again, just to thin the road out so that, when you're coming down through there, you have a smaller way, so you're gonna slow down a little bit.
Okay. Very good. Do we get a motion for this?
Not yet.
Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Lamoureux,
Yes.
Mr. Sellers,
Yes.
Mayor Messer,
Yes.
Mrs. Eggers,
Yes.
Mrs. Harper,
Yes.
Mr. Cope,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2025-052.
Ordinance number 2025-052, authorizing a contract with Performance Site Development in the amount of $1,090,120.05 for the reconstruction of Park Avenue and declaring an emergency.
This ordinance authorizes a contract with Performance Site Development for the reconstruction of Park Avenue, including installation of a new storm sewer system, repairs and modifications to the sanitary sewers, replacement of the water main, and new curb and pavement.
We have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Sellers,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Mr. Cope,
Yes.
Mayor Messer,
Yes.
Mrs. Harper,
Yes.
Mr. Lamoureux,
Yes.
Mrs. Eggers.
Yes.
Ordinance number 2025-053.
Ordinance number 2025-053, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Burgess and NIPLE in the amount of $288,000 for the update of the 2001 sewer system master plan.
This ordinance authorizes a contract with Burgess and NIPLE to update the sewer system master plan to address capacity, condition, and future needs of the city's sewer infrastructure. The last update was in 2001.
Motion for first read.
So moved.
Second.
Resolution 2025-054.
Resolution number 2025-054, authorizing the official naming of the park adjacent to the parkside development and the multi-use path going through the park and ultimately connecting to downtown Lebanon.
This resolution authorizes the naming of the park and multi-use path adjacent to the new parkside development. The proposed names are Stonehouse Park, named for an old home on the property, and Shaker Hill Trail, named after the original farm on the property.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
and you have to forgive me because I didn't go back and listen to the comments from last week when I missed. Was there any discussion around putting up a sign, basically telling of the students that named the park and the trail, or I guess recognizing them?
There'll be a sign, but we didn't talk about the students specifically, no. But that's a good idea.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
Before you put the sign up, just a few extra bucks to throw some words. They don't have names like Lamoureux where you have to charge.
Yeah. It's a good idea. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Sellers?
Yes.
Mr. Coe?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Mrs. Eggers?
Yes.
Mr. Lamoureux?
Yes.
Mayor Messer?
Yes. City manager reports.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I want to let folks know the North Broadway construction project is going to begin May 6th, so in a couple of weeks. This is kind of a multifaceted project. It's going to start with the replacement of the existing water line running along North Broadway from kind of Suncrest Drive up to Miller Road. Once that work's complete, we will then be constructing a new separate paved bike path. It will also extend up to Miller Road. Essentially, the bike lane will be eliminated with that project. The curb line is going to get moved into where the bike lane is now. There are about $1 million of ODOT safety funds involved in the project. And one of their requirements was to kind of keep Broadway a 3-lane road for safety reasons. So bike lane is going away with a separate bike trail or bike path that's going to get built behind the curb, but it will remain a 3-lane roadway with an additional lane at the fairgrounds to kind of accommodate some of their event traffic. And then when that's all done, it'll be a complete resurfacing of the road similar to what you've seen on Main Street the last few years. So excited to get the project started. It's a big project and should be getting underway shortly. And then just a reminder, there are no meetings of council next week. So the next meeting of City Council will be a work session on May 6th. That's all I have, man.
Approximately how long will that project last?
It's going to be the entire construction season. So the completion date is early December. If for some reason, there's any sort of delays, kind of that final paving segment of the project would likely happen in the spring. It's going to be weather dependent. Obviously, we're working around certain events like the fair. Need to get out of there before the carriage parade, so we're kind of planning around that. But the goal is to get it done and paid by the end of the year.
We have an executive session tonight, so Mr. Sellers, you got anything for us?
I just want to thank everybody who showed up for the Arbor Day events, even though they are long gone. But Shade Tree Commission for showing up here today as well. I also want to thank you, Mr. Marshall, for showing concern for the safety of your neighbors. It really reflects the best of who we are, right? As a community, a strong community depends on people who care enough to show up and speak on behalf of their fellow neighbors. So I really appreciate you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to say something tonight. So that's all I got.
Got the Donut House reopening next week. So that's the first.
So I talked to the owner, it's the donut shop. It's
The
not
donut
the
shop.
donut house.
Yeah.
He's like, I didn't rename it. I'm like, okay. Just making sure.
Yeah.
So that should be fun.
Yes.
I mean, I appreciate it if you could go a day early and check it out for
I'll
us.
be
and
there. I will.
Make sure the parking
I will
spot's
preempt
Taste
it.
test.
It's a donut thing.
Taste test.
Yeah, I'll get there for you.
So looking forward to that.
We'll recon.
Okay.
Very good. Mr. Norris?
I want to thank the Arbor Day kids. That's always, I was like Kristen said, it's my favorite Pledge of Allegiance. It's always the biggest crowd, and you can hear all the voices rolling in. I enjoy that. And the Parkside naming students as well. That was fun to do and be able to see. And it is, I didn't think about that they'll be able to bring people back, and that'll be, I did that. So that's really cool. And I love the involvement that people have with our community. They want to see Lebanon continue to improve. Just a real quick side thing, the Councilor Rooney comes out every once in a while. I had a friend this last week passed away. He lived by himself and battled some demons, and he was alone, and they found him. I'm not sure how many days he had been in his apartment, and that always touches me, because I always wonder how many people are out there by themselves and don't have people, no family, no particular friends. The man that he worked with is a good friend of mine, and I work with him as well. He had actually called me to check on him because he hadn't responded in a couple days, and I'd gotten home, was just ready to do a wellness check, or have the police do a wellness check, and another person had gone in and found him. He had passed away. So it's just a reach out for anybody. There's always somebody for somebody. Never feel like you're alone. Never feel like you're by yourself. Depression is awful, and there's different levels of depression: sadness, depression, major depression, etc. But always know that you can find somebody, especially in a community like Lebanon, that we've got a lot of services available. We're the county seat. We've got mental health services. We've got churches. We've got people who just care. And so don't ever, anyone that's watching or listening, feel like you're alone. But that was a sad day, knowing that he was there by himself and wasn't able to find help when he needed it. So I just want to kind of in memory and honor of James. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Mr. Cook?
Well, it's kind of tough.
Sorry, dude.
I was going to say how, Rob, I appreciate you coming, and also I echo the sentiments of just having the activity and the kids here, seeing, not to be afraid of what city council does or what goes on in the city to come in here, so that's cool. But for people of Christian faith, we celebrate Easter, and we're just a few days past that, and what that means to those of the Christian faith. Of course, the Pope passed away, but the fact that Christ rose for all of us, and for those of us that celebrate, what an exciting time. Great weather, finally. Also, today is 1970. 55 years ago today, it's Earth Day, celebrating our day. I do a little fact that I happened to look up coming in here. Did you know we have 20 to 25% more trees than in 1970? Of course, I'm very glad that the predictions of those, kind of what that movement was about at the time, we're going to run out of water, run out of oil, we're actually going to die from cold at this age. So the hubris of mankind to make these kind of predictions is kind of silly, isn't it? But luckily, then what really makes it more special is that it is my wife's birthday, so happy birthday to the love of my life. All right. Yeah.
As I said before, it's always fun when we have a big crowd, but also I'm really glad that we had this Safe Streets evaluation and all this, because it is something that's so important that people bring up all the time. And people often think that they're just yelling into a cave when they have these concerns, but it's we live here too. I mean, that's why we're here, and it's a concern to us. We have we walk downtown, we have our families, we have our children, we walk and we drive, and we want it to be safe. I have a new driver. I'm worried. We talk about the uncomfortable spots. I would be uncomfortable. Those are the spots that I tell her, watch it. So I'm very glad that we're doing that. And for people who just are online saying, well, there's a problem here, there's a problem there. You can come to a meeting, you can email us, let us know. There was the survey opportunity, but these are the kind of things that people can continue to come and let us know. And maybe, or if they speak with us about it, maybe they're going to find it something that we're already looking into, because you'll often see the comment of, well, they don't care anyway. Well, we do, and we're here, and please email us, please come to a meeting, please call. Obviously, Scott and others are great at answering these questions, so they can let you know, because there's so many streets that were on this survey. I mean, I couldn't even tell you what all is being looked at, but if you have those questions, please don't hesitate to reach out about those things.
And I've had a few questions about Wawa, like timetable and that. Do you have an update on that at all?
No, I really don't. I know there's obviously this kind of a pause in construction. My understanding is they had a separate site development contractor, grading contractor, and then once they're done, they bring in kind of the building contractor, which is a whole separate company. So I think that was a little bit of that gap. So I don't have an update in terms of when they anticipate being done, but I can try to find out.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to thank Shade Tree for being here tonight and for helping us present those. And it's really it's happy that you were here, Mickey. And I know you've had a hard road, and I'm sure that some of the things that we talked about were possibly kind of hard for you, and because you were one of those numbers that we talked about. So I appreciate you being here, and we're working on the safety of our community, and I think from a policy standpoint, what this is going to do is allows us to bolster basically our packet as we put in for these grants. We're a very conservative community. We want to spend our money wisely. We've energized staff to push for grants anywhere at all possible. And what this will do is really give us a good foot to stand on when we ask for money. So just thank you guys for what you do, and we will see you in May. Motion, we need a motion to go into executive session.
Need a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G2 to consider the purchase of property for public purposes or for the sale of property and competitive bidding of premature disclosure of information to give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is adverse to the general public interest.
So second. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Harper?
Yes.
Mr. Sellers?
Yes.
Mr. Cope?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Norris? Mrs. Eggers?
Yes.
Mr. Lamoureux?
Yes.
Mayor Messer?
Yes. Thank you for joining us.